welcome. Today we're going to be installing the Trackspec Motorsports Spec Corvette tow hooks. So, we're doing the front here. First things you need to do are take out all of the plastics that are in the way. Assuming this is a stock car, which is what this one was, there's going to be a lot of little bolts everywhere, and the hardest ones you're going to have to deal with are two small bolts that are on the sides of this plastic shroud here, and they look like this. And I'm only pointing this out to you because they're a pain in the ass to remove, and if you're lucky enough to not have to remove them, that means somebody else went through the frustration and purposely didn't reinstall them. But you're going to have to take off a lot of the extra plastics around here just to be able to access that nut on the backside. You'll find out if you have to. But moving on to the tow hook, very straightforward install. You are given 2 rib nuts, which means you're going to have to hold this up in position, take a silver Sharpie or a white marker of some kind, mark your holes, alright, so first hole, going to be a small pilot hole into the bumper beam. Alright, the important size, the size of these M10 rib nuts, is to use a 17/32 drill bit, so larger than a 1/2 inch. If you don't want to go get one, yes, you could use the 1/2 inch and just kind of swirl it around and try and make that bigger. Better to just have the right tools first. Alright, holes are drilled. Now I'm going to show you our handy dandy rib nut installation tool. With this tool, you can install the M10 and M12 rib nuts. We don't need this one right now. Just need the M10s. So the assembly of this is one fully threaded M10 bolt with a nut and a washer. And on the threads, I have a little bit of grease. It's actually brake caliper grease. I don't need it to be any specific kind of grease, just something to help the surfaces stay nice and fluid. Something other than WD-40, basically. And you want that grease to be on the nut side up here, not so much on the rib nut side. So we're just going to put this on, and the way that this is going to work, going up into the car, we want to make sure that this doesn't spin. We're going to hold on to this handle, or this handle is going to rest on something. Yes, it's going to rest on something. You just kind of like turn it until it hits something and make sure it doesn't move, make sure it's steady. And because, again, we're doing M10s, I have a 17mm wrench and the 17 socket. Now, so the way this is going to work is the ratchet and the handle will need to be stationary. You could try to hold them together or let them rest on something. What you're doing is you are turning the nut only. What that's going to do is as you turn it, as you are going righty-tighty, you are trying to draw the bolt down because the rib nut is compressing. It's getting sucked down. You're using the nut to tighten against it to pull the nut down. It does help to have a second set of hands for this kind of procedure. So now I'm just taking up slack. Also, should also mention, make sure you have enough thread. I guess I could go for a little more. So I'm going to wind the nut down so I can wind the rib nut down. just so I have enough thread engagement on the rib nut itself. Otherwise, you're just going to pull threads out. So that's better. Doesn't need to be sticking all the way through, because you still need room for the wrench itself and the socket. So got that.
That's the Hollywood hands.
It's the fourth wall break. Okay, got it?
Yep.
All right, starting to feel tight. Keep going as far as I can go. All right. I deem that sufficiently tight. Now the ratchet is totally compressed, so I just need to pull it back a little bit so I can loosen that. There we go. That one. There we go. So now everything is super tight in there. So I'm going to put this back in and turn it the other way, where I'm loosening the nuts. There we go. Now the system is loose, and I can just turn the bolt out. And to double check, put it back in. Shaking the bolt shakes the car, because the rib nut is firmly in position. And now for the grand finale, we have the tow hook ready to go in. Got our bolts, got our lock washers on the bolts. One at a time. Yeah. Oh, there we go. There's one. Hallelujah. It fits. We got an extension on this. There we go. I am tightening. So I'm just tightening both sides a little bit at a time. Makes sense to me. That is tight. That is tight. Double check. There we go. Depending on your car model, you may need a spacer to get this to not be pressing up against the bumper, but that'll be determined at your discretion. Well, that's it. It's done. You now have a Trackspec Motorsports Spec Corvette Racing Red tow hook. Enjoy. For our rear tow hook, it's a very simple install, but you just have to be careful that you don't totally make it worse for yourself. There are two nuts that are holding the muffler on. These two nuts, you're going to drop them down. Be very careful, obviously you don't want the muffler to fall, but the studs that are sticking down, they can move and they can get pushed up into the bumper beam, which will ruin your day. So just be very careful when you are installing the tow hook and the muffler to make sure that you don't push the two studs up into the bumper. It's a very straightforward install. Pop it on, studs, the nuts back on, and there you go, you have a rear tow hook.